Okay, you guys. Testing. I put the wind buffer on this microphone, but we are indoors and there's no wind. But I don't know. I just feel like maybe it'll help the quality of the audio. But yeah, hopefully today's episode is a little more clear than last week's episode where we were just raw dogging it with the camera mic. I'm testing out my Rode Wireless Go mics because the specs on them are just as good as like a high functioning podcast microphone. And I also realized that I just talk with my hands far too much to be like holding a microphone. So yeah, we're going to test this out, see how it goes. We might still invest in a more podcast appropriate microphone. But welcome to episode 2 of Surviving the Panic Years with your host, me, Kirsten. Sorry if I'm man-spreading. I'm just sitting on this little sofa in my basement because it's like the most private space for us to chat, just you and I. But I've gotten cozy. I got my Stanley. Where is it? Right here. And I will apologize in advance if my voice sounds a little shot. I felt a cold coming on. I was feeling a little like run down even before I went to New York. But after flying, especially flying home, I don't know what happened, but like the pressure in my ears this time on that flight home was so bad. And I think I've sort of developed or given myself a sinus infection from flying while already feeling like I was getting a cold or being run down. So that's why my voice sounds like this. Hopefully y'all will be able to put up with it. But I have my tablet here. So I am ready to dive right into today's episode. I am a proud member of Yappers Anonymous, or maybe not so anonymous, because I think it's a well-known fact that my own voice is like one of my favorite sounds. So hopefully my talking points that I have in front of me on my iPad will keep me on track, and I won't ramble on about any one particular thing for too long. But like I said, I am home now from New York, obviously. I've been home for about 5 days, and I don't know if it's just because I live in Edmonton, Alberta, or if it's because I came home to a literal snowstorm, but I am already feeling super depressed, and I'm counting down the days until I can jet on out of here again. But that sort of brings me to the theme of today's episode. Given that I'm currently dealing with the hard transition back to, my reality and my day-to-day life, I thought we could discuss the whole idea of trying to find happiness where we are, and the importance of doing so as well. I know that even though my life will definitely not begin and end in my hometown of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, I also know that the way I've been living my life and just jetting out every chance I get to, get a little serotonin boost, that definitely hasn't helped my struggle to find happiness, in my day-to-day life, not just during, the highs and, the fun moments and experiences of life. This urge to escape, my hometown in general, has almost gotten to an unhealthy point. I mean, I have been on at least one weekend getaway once a month, every month essentially since July of 2022. I have talked about this a lot in therapy, and I've also read a lot about it in my plethora of self-help books that I've accumulated over the last 2 years. And that is the whole theory of basically how you will never find happiness anywhere until you learn to find it where you are and within yourself, if that makes sense. It is definitely easier said than done. I mean, how the heck does one even find happiness, especially in somewhere like Edmonton, Alberta, or within themselves, considering all the crazy things that we have to navigate in our 20s and in these panic years where we're feeling so lost, overwhelmed, and confused a lot of the times, and just dealing with so many different stressors like financial, home life, friends, relationships, no matter what it is. And while I don't have all the answers, I have noticed that I am a lot happier and less mentally unwell, so to speak, in my day-to-day life when I do certain things. So that is what we're going to talk about today, and that is 5 things that you can try to do to find happiness where you are in your daily life and kind of within yourself. Number 1, for me, definitely, is establishing and maintaining a routine. For me personally, I'm able to feel a lot of happiness and natural serotonin and contentment through having a routine and sticking to it. that sort of sense of accomplishment that you get from maintaining it. Right now, for me, the important elements of my personal routine are studying for the LSAT at least 2 hours a day, every day. Going to work, obviously just hustling as much as I can and saving money so that I can do things that bring me joy, like going on a trip here or there, shopping, doing whatever. Obviously, trying to save as well. Ugh, all that fun stuff. Pay off your credit card, just to use it again, whatever it is. Exercising consistently and at least 3 times a week, and then staying on top of my diet. Just trying to eat cleaner, trying to eat less junk, and trying to eat more of like a high protein diet. Those are my priorities right now within my routine. And maybe this is just me or my crippling ADHD, but when I do decide that I want to do something or accomplish something, I tend to get a little carried away and go gung-ho, or whatever that expression is, right out of the gates. And I end up stretching myself super thin or overworking myself or just wearing myself out. And as a result, I either fail or feel severely burnt out rather quickly. And this can result in me just feeling really defeated or even worse than I did before I tried to start whatever new routine or make whatever positive change. So one thing I would definitely advise to everyone out there, whether they're starting a new routine or just trying to get back into an old one, is just set small yet attainable goals for yourself. Giving yourself those small wins and just like being patient with yourself while you're making changes is the best thing you could do for your mental health, because change obviously doesn't happen overnight. Oh, that's good. Love water. This is like my comfort cup, my Stanley. Everyone makes fun of me because I carry it everywhere, even to work. And a lot of my managers are like, that thing looks like a trash can because it's so huge, but I don't even care. I'm a proud Stanley fanatic, okay? But yeah, that is number 1. Number 2, for me, as a sort of way that you could try to find happiness where you are or within yourself, within your daily life, is trying something new once a month. Once a month is a small and attainable goal. I think it's important to do things that might be less conventional, but that will bring you joy. You don't often hear a lot about people like in their 20s or in their early adult years or even like later adult years starting up a new hobby or trying new things. I think it should be more normalized. A lot of the time, especially during these panic years of early adulthood, people are overcome by all those sorts of stressors that I mentioned. All those things that are constantly weighing on us, they'll still be there in like an hour. If we set some time aside for ourselves, at least once a month, to do something to try to, distract ourselves or to channel some sort of positive outlet that keeps us still being exposed to new things even as we get older. I think you're never too old to take up a new hobby or to like find a new passion. I personally keep asking a lot of my friends to come to a pottery class with me. I don't know what it is about a pottery class specifically, but I keep seeing DIY pottery videos come up on my TikTok and like DIY air dry clay things, but I want to do like the full experience of like spinning it on the wheel, learning to like, do things with my hands. I feel like I'd be a better lesbian if I could somehow do pottery. I don't know. That's just a random thought. I don't know if that's at all connected, but I just feel like it's like hot to be good with your hands or to be able to like make something with your hands. But yeah, I just thought it would be fun to maybe like make a mug or like a jewelry tray, something like that. I feel like would bring me happiness. It would be really satisfying. That or like a pole fitness class, like a pole dancing class or aerial silks or aerial hoop. I've wanted to try something like that for a while now too. And I feel like it would be so much fun. I want to normalize trying new things, to step out of my comfort zone and to just keep pushing myself to learn and grow even as I get older. I never want to stop learning, and I think it would be cool to have fun random talents like pottery or pole dancing. I know that not everyone might feel comfortable putting themselves out there or trying something new, especially as we're getting older. But if that's how you feel, then maybe you can try striking up an old hobby or something that you used to do that you stopped doing for whatever reason, but that you still are passionate about. For example, I used to competitive dance. I started dancing when I was 3. I stopped when I was around 18, 19 years old. And with dance specifically, you kind of age out of the sport. You either choose to train and pursue dance as a career, or you can choose to retire and maybe you go on to do other things like pursue your academics or whatever else it might be. For me, that was the case because, dancers, you're not really guaranteed a paycheck. Like, you have to invest in all that good high quality training, constantly put yourself out there at auditions, and maybe you'll get every one job once in a blue moon. I was also just really scared of failing, I think, especially given how much I loved dance. I didn't want to fail. Like, I was too scared to put myself out there to try it. Even though my parents would have been fully supportive of me, I was just scared. And I really regret not continuing to train seriously and to not at least try to make my dreams happen before going to school. That's one of my biggest regrets. So I've been really wanting to take even just like an adult ballet class or just drop in contemporary dance classes just to kind of become familiar again with my long lost love of dance, and just do it maybe because it just still might bring me joy and make me feel good to move my body. So if you're too shy or maybe just hesitant to put yourself out there and try something that you might be terrible at, maybe try something that you knew you were once good at or that you at least still have passion for. That's always an option. Just something for yourself. But honestly, you guys, fuck it. You guys owe it to yourselves. We owe it to ourselves to do things that make us happy. Who cares if we look stupid? Who cares what people think of you? Nothing is really that deep. That is what I'm trying to preach to myself this year anyway. Nothing is that deep. But this brings us to number 3. The third idea of something that you can do to try to find happiness where you are or within yourself is just by trying to be more mindful of the types of content that you're consuming. I think especially in this age of social media that we're in, it's very easy for us to be over consuming other people's lives and allowing that to affect us on a deeper level than we may think. I think a lot of the time social media really, whether you realize it or not, causes us to compare ourselves and our lives to other people. And that's really not healthy because there is no set path to success. There's many ways that people can become successful. Just because someone is getting engaged or married, having kids, or maybe has, secured a big girl job at the age of 23, 24, 25 even. Like, those aren't set pillars of success. Everyone is on their own path and it's okay to be at different stages. What's not okay is to speak down on other people's accomplishments out of jealousy or whatever it might be. Like, just really focusing on yourself and knowing that everyone has their own path is, I think, something that's really important. And I also just know that social media is toxic for the fact that people really do just treat it as their highlight reel. Not a lot of people share the less picturesque moments of their lives or the harsh realities of their lives. I used to be friends with lots of girls, even back in high school, that had these perfectly curated Instagram profiles. Their feed grid was like carefully curated. They made sure each picture that they posted looked good in their little grid or whatever. And all their pictures were very posed or planned or just, made to look perfect. And a lot of the times, I knew these girls, for example, at a very personal and deep level. I knew that their home lives were a mess. I knew that their relationships were a mess, the relationships they had with their partners and themselves. These girls, a lot of the times, with these perfect social medias, are very insecure. Or, they're posting pictures of these lavish vacations or designer things or all these fun things that they're doing. And you think they have this, like, perfect life and perfect relationship when really their boyfriends are like literal abusive pieces of shit, and you don't even see the reality of that. You don't see how much they facetune their photos. You don't see the full picture of anyone's life when you look at what they post on social media. So just know that everything on social media is fake, and it's just toxic for us to be constantly consuming that. So instead of mindlessly scrolling so much on Instagram or TikTok and, over consuming so much of everyone else's lives, I think it's a lot better to try to consume more healthy sources of content. For example, I have found a newfound love with podcasts. That's why I came to the decision to want to start my own. I know that certain OGs like Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper and then also Date Yourself Instead with Liz have been monumental and me trying to navigate my 20s so far anyway. Especially the Date Yourself podcast when it comes to, breakups or trying to detach from people and really just like find your power again. And then Alex Cooper is just freaking hilarious, and I love listening to all the discussions of sex or whatever with all the celebrities and just feeling like you're getting to know them on a more intimate level. It's just fun. And that stuff like that is like way less harmful to consume and to listen to than just mindlessly scrolling and looking at other people's pictures and then like crying because you hate your life or you think that you're ugly. You know what I mean? Aside from podcasts, which are great, I think that self-help books should not be shat on either. I have a growing collection now that I'm quite proud of. A lot of the ones I cannot recommend enough are pretty much anything by Brianna Weist or Brianna West. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's spelled Weist. Some of my favorite books of hers that I have and that I've read personally are 101 Essays to Change the Way You Think, The Mountain is You, and The Pivot Year. Those books actually changed my life and my perspective almost entirely and have really helped me work through a lot of stuff about myself and that I've gone through with either like friendship breakups or relationship breakups. So I highly recommend those books, or basically anything by Brianna Weist. And then also there's two books in particular by Bianca Sparacino, I think it's pronounced, such as A Gentle Reminder and then The Strength in Our Scars. Those two books are also amazing and they've really helped me a lot. I think these books are also great because a lot of the information in these books is information that I've also been introduced to through therapy. And I know that not a lot of people can afford regular therapy or maybe to go at all or as much as they would like to because it's freaking expensive. I mean, now that I'm not a student, I can't necessarily afford to be spending $350 an hour on therapy several times a month. I mean, at that point, I would almost spend that money on a plane ticket to just go on a trip, be on a beach somewhere and, run away from my problems. But that's also part of what we're trying to correct or deal with. That's definitely not necessarily the healthiest thing to do. So maybe, instead of running away to Las Vegas to shake ass, maybe just buy a self-help book, read it, and sit on the decision before you go back on Skyscanner and book that flight. But can't vouch for self-help books enough. I love me a good self-help book. If y'all have any recommendations, feel free to slide in my DMs. That brings us to number 4 of something that you can do to try to find happiness where you are and within yourself. That would be just by trying to be more selective of who you allow in your life. And this applies to both friendships and relationships. One thing that I've learned and learned well is that the people you keep around you or that you allow in your life play a large role in your happiness and mental well-being. There's that whole saying of you are who you surround yourself with, or, birds of a feather flock together, whatever that silly saying is. And when it comes to friendships, there's some common, sayings that a lot of people say, like, oh, day one, A1, or keep your circle small. And I don't necessarily agree with those sayings. I definitely don't think that day one means A1 always, mostly because of my own personal experience. I mean, the one ex-friend of mine that has hurt me the most out of any friendship is someone that I had known since I was 16, almost as long as most of my other, longtime friends. And this person disrespected me the most and was the fakest to me, of anyone that I've ever met or had in my life to date. It's also just natural for you to outgrow certain friends or to naturally grow apart as life progresses. I mean, maybe you used to have a bunch of things in common with someone when you were 16, but that might not still be the case now that you're into your 20s. Maybe you have less in common or not much to base your friendship off of, aside from the fact that y'all have known each other forever. And it is quite possible that you also may mature at different levels than other people. Or maybe, as life progresses, you both begin to go through struggles that make it difficult for you guys to be good friends to each other or to even have any sort of, genuine friendship. With girls especially, like, girls are the worst. Girls are so catty and bitchy by nature. And even though we're getting older, I just turned 25, there are a lot of girls that I know of that I used to be very close with that really have not done a lot of growing up over the years or maturing anyway. Some girls, for some reason, given whatever they're dealing with, just tend to get stuck in that sort of mean high school bully, mean girl era for a little longer than other people, or maybe they just, that's just what they're capable of bringing to the table. And you do not want to be associated with or friends with people who are notoriously shitty to other people or just known for being a mean girl. Like, girls, if you still have friends that talk shit about you behind your back or behind your back to your other friends, that is not it in 2024. It is also not it to be friends with people who talk about other people behind their back to you, because the chances are, if that person's talking shit about someone else to you, they're probably talking shit about you to someone else. And that was the case with one of my former friends that I once thought was like my best friend. So yeah, it's just not fun to be friends with people who are mean or problematic or shallow or fake. It is just not the vibe. It is also not fun to be friends with narcissists or people who lack the self-awareness to see, how they treat you or mistreat you. But I also, like I said, don't necessarily agree with the whole keep your circle small saying either. In terms of friendships or friend group or like social network, size does not necessarily matter the most. I would say that quality of friendships matters more, and definitely still quality over quantity. But I think as long as that you prioritize and ensure that the people that you allow in your life or that you allow to stay in your life pour into your cup the same way you pour into theirs. I think that the most important thing in any friendship is just equal effort and care, and continued effort and care especially. I do think it's possible to have multiple close friends. I mean, I have best friends that I've had from dance. I have best friends from school. I have best friends from going out or going on trips. Like, I have many close friends that I hold just as near and dear to my heart and that I love so much and share everything about myself with. That might just be how I operate and my sort of extroverted nature, but I do think that it's possible to have many best friends and more than just one at that. I think that as long as you can balance every friend's needs and not get trapped in like conflicts of interest or conflicts of loyalty, I don't think that there's anything wrong with having a big or diverse social circle or social network. But again, like I sort of mentioned, some people are more extroverted and other people are maybe more introverted. So people who are introverted probably are more likely to just only have one or two close friends, and that's totally okay. But as long as you're a freaking kind person, as long as you maintain loyal and engaged in your friendships and just giving and taking equal effort, I think those are the most important elements. But the last thing that I wanted to discuss in terms of something that can bring you happiness where you are and to help you find happiness within yourself, that would definitely be becoming a master of your own emotions. This is something that I have struggled with since I was young, and I still very much do, and it is something that I'm trying to prioritize and really, really work on in 2024. And I think it's like especially relevant when it comes to conflicts in your life, whether it be with like a friend or a partner. I personally am just a very strong feeler. So I feel really high highs, but I also feel really low lows. And I'm the type of person who is all in with someone once I decide I want to let them in my life, whether that be as a friend or otherwise. Like, if I let you in my life, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to share everything. I'm going to be an open book because that's just how I am. I don't mind sharing, and I share with no expectation other than maybe don't judge me. So given how invested I am and open and how passionate I am in loving in friendships and any sort of relationship, and because I feel such high highs and low lows just in life in general, I think it's been especially hard for me to hold my tongue, especially in situations that have involved like a lot of emotions. I'm also very much a recovering people pleaser. and a sort of pushover when it comes to being mistreated by people. In the past, I've definitely allowed friends and partners to mistreat me, whether that be repeated subtle instances or displays of disrespect or mistreatment, or maybe fewer, more grandiose displays. But I definitely have tolerated things and not really spoken up for myself. And in doing so, you sort of set the dynamic for your friendships or relationships. If you don't speak up for yourself or, stop people dead in their tracks the first time they do you dirty and, maybe even like cut people off or just, like show someone that you won't tolerate being treated a certain way, I think it just sort of enables them or gives them the idea that, they can get away with it. Or maybe that just causes you to be stuck in situations, whether that be friendships or relationships with people who are just really not emotionally aware or intelligent, and maybe they're not even capable or willing to see any perspective outside of their own because they've never really had to before. You've never really stood up for yourself or made them think twice. But no matter what, I've definitely just been in situations that I have remained in and should not have. And eventually I have reached a breaking point where I felt I was disrespected or mistreated ultimately for the last time, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I've reached a breaking point and I've popped the fuck off. I'm pretty sure that every single one of us has been there before. Yeah, there are definitely girls out there, and even like my ex-boyfriends, who think I'm a psychotic bitch, for sure. And rightfully so, because I've probably earned that title with how I've communicated my hurt and reacted to their mistreatment. But no one ever likes to freaking talk about what it took to get me to that point. No one wants to reflect on their own behavior and look where they've done me wrong. They only look at me and my reaction and think, oh, yeah, see, you're the problem. You're crazy. Because who didn't stand up for themselves or demand to be treated with respect earlier on? And that's my own fault. But what's not my fault is how shitty other people can be and how shitty that they've treated me, and whether or not they're able or capable of seeing that. There are narcissistic people out there. You cannot make them aware of their own wrongdoings no matter how hard you try. It's like beating a dead horse. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink sort of vibe. You know what I mean? Like, if someone doesn't want to be self-aware, they're not going to be until they get to that point on their own. And honestly, if someone wants to think that they haven't hurt you and that you're just apeshit crazy, let them be, because you don't even want to be friends with people who are not emotionally intelligent or aware like that. Just let people be who they're going to be and walk away the first time they show you who they are. That's something I really need to learn in 2024 and just embrace for the rest of my life, is just to believe people when they show you who they are the first time. Definitely wouldn't have ended up in an abusive relationship when I was 16 if that was the case. Definitely would not have probably ended up pregnant at 20 with another abusive piece of poo a few years later. And I definitely wouldn't have been in the fake and shallow friendships that I have had from high school into my early adulthood with girls who really didn't care about my best interest and, kind of just viewed me as a down bitch or going out friend. Like, I've just definitely given so much of myself to people who didn't even deserve it or who weren't capable of holding me or treating me how I treated them or even how I deserve to be treated. But yeah, that's just kind of the lessons that you gotta live through and learn on your own, especially in your 20s. These freaking panic years suck, and you just kind of gotta ride the ride to get to the final destination, if you know what I mean. Doesn't change the fact that it sucks, but yeah, I've definitely let the emotions get the better of me many a times, and as hard as it is, and as much as it can suck being the bigger person when someone really just deserves to be slapped upside the head or told everything that's wrong with them and that's wrong with how they treated you, being more non-reactive is the best thing that you can do for yourself, no matter how hard it is. Every time I've been able to exercise the strength to do so and just maybe even maturely and respectfully speak my feelings and just leave it at that. Or every time I've just, been able to actually have the strength to spare my energy entirely and not give people any more of me because they're probably not even willing or capable to even comprehend what I'm saying or give me whatever remorse, response, understanding, or reparations that I'm seeking. Like every time I've just spared it and just, given myself time to process things, like at least 2 days to sit on something and process it and not be so reactive, it has never done me wrong. At the end of the day, now that I think about it, the only thing that being highly reactive does is give people the power to talk about you and be like, this bitch is crazy. See, this is why she's problematic. What was problematic was the behaviors of other people that led you to get to that point. Was your response probably also problematic? Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, just don't give people that power. As much as it freaking sucks to like bite on it and not say anything and take the high road, it is ultimately the path less traveled, but the path that leads to greater reward. So yeah, I'm just really trying to work on that, especially this year, because I know as much as I might fester on things and like rethink situations or conversations, things I wish I would have said, that is ultimately the biggest waste of your time. And you're going to spend the rest of your life overthinking things and just letting it consume you. And that's no way to live. That's not how you're going to be happy. You're not going to be any happier doing all that. So I really want to learn to try to cut back on that and just live and let be. Live and let be, girlfriends. But yeah, I know that the day I become ultimately unbothered, or that I can be ultimately unbothered, I will be unstoppable. But yeah, so public apology to anyone out there, whether you deserve an apology or not, that might be watching this video. If I've ever popped off on you, I take full accountability for my psychoness. I wish you were able to take accountability for what you might have done to lead me to get to that point, but that is a conversation for another day. And y'all might not be ready for that. I might not be ready for that. It's fine. Something that I've learned and I need to just constantly remind myself is that I am not responsible for how people treat me, but I am responsible for how I react. So I do need to do better, and I can take full accountability. I am aware. That's probably one of the worst things about me, especially with my notorious overthinking, is that whether anyone believes it or not, I'm actually super self-aware. I am hyper self-aware, and that almost makes everything worse for myself because I'm so tough on myself, and I am such a harsh critic of myself, and I constantly overthink and wish I could have done things better or done things differently. But it's like, I just need to learn to be a little less anxious and overthink things a lot less. Because at the end of the day, no one is freaking perfect. Everyone's trying to figure out life, one day at a time. And it really does just take time for us to find ourselves, find our way, find happiness where we are and within ourselves. And, as long as we're not regressing and just constantly working on ourselves and trying to make efforts to be better and do better, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what you might have done in the past, but it matters who you are now and what you're trying to do to, be a better person from now on. And that is my TED Talk. I don't know if any of this made sense or if I was rambling for a really long time, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully there was something you could take away from today's episode. I am definitely going to try to keep posting consistently. You can follow me on Spotify and YouTube, or subscribe on YouTube. You can even turn on your post notifications so that you guys get notified every time a new episode drops. Feel free to leave me a comment, rate me on Spotify, do all the things. It means so much to me. And yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely week. We'll see you next week. Bye.